For the 2026s, there is no more crucial summer in the recruitment process than the one that lies before them, with these rising juniors getting plenty of attention in the coming weeks, and they'll do so with new-look PrepBaseball class rankings. Welcome into Coffee and Curvballs, Cory McCartney, along with ShooterHunt. And Shooter, good to have you in person for once.
I know. I'm so pumped to be back at Lake Point. We got great weather here, MPI on the horizon, and all these 26s who are, for the most part, uncommitted going into the summer.
Yeah, these rankings, the top 400 players in the class, are certainly something for these players to get excited about. But this is also a massive recruitment tool for college coaches in a summer that will also include the future games for the 2026s and the expansion to 500 players in this list by September.
Yeah, with that slowdown in the recruiting process, way more kids are uncommitted this year than we've seen before in the 26 class. So a lot of coaches are going to be evaluating for the majority of the summer leading up to those future games where that August 1st date will come into play, and those phones better be charged.
For all its depth, Florida hasn't had a high school player picked higher than 5th since Manny Machado in 2010, so you're going way back. But there are some serious high-end options as we watch these 2026s develop. The Sunshine State making a statement, beginning with shortstop Jacob Lombard out of Gulliver Prep, the #1 player in the class, along with Miami-bound lefty Gio Rojas at number 3. Trinity Christian teammates in Florida recruits Brady Harris and Ethan Wheeler at 6th and 9th, respectively. South Walton's Coleman Borthwick and Auburn commit at 11th. Shooter, that's just the beginning with these guys.
It really is, and these past 2 years, 24 and 25, we'll see what happens there with regard to the draft, but you usually start Florida and California, Texas, Georgia. Hey, where are those first-rounders at? Not quite as strong in 24. We'll see what happens with 25. There's some out-of-state guys there, but then you go to 26. Lombard. Premium position guy, #1 player in the class, can really swing it from the right side. There's power, hit tool. You go Gio Rojas, who moved in from the state of Colorado, left-handed arm. He'd probably move to number 3, potentially number 2, #1 pitcher in the class if he was a 25. That's how good the upside is from him on the left side there. Brady Harris, who can really swing it. I don't want to say it's Dylan Cruz right now, but it has that type of quality. Right outfielder who can really swing it. Wheeler, who's as polished as it comes, the top right-hander in that class. And then Coleman Borthwick, who probably has the most imposing frame at 6'6", about 240, but can really move at third base, hops on the bounds up to 94 as a wipeout slider, and he's just a winner. Those panhandle kids know how to play.
So let's look at 9 risers that you had on your sites, beginning with Archbishop Moeller's 2-sport star Matt Ponatoski. We had Matt and Moeller here at Lake Point Sports during the spring break experience. There is some serious juice from the left-hand side.
You know, I'm glad you said Ponatoski and you took care of the pronunciation there. But as a QB1 prospect, we love those athletes, right? Find those aggressive athletes and bet on what they're going to do. Ponatoski, not scary. I think he's been starting at Moeller on the gridiron since he was a freshman at quarterback. That left-handed stroke, it's not Colt Emerson-like, but he's from Ohio. He's probably got more power than Colt, and the frame's a bit bigger. Whether he sticks at shortstop like Colt, we'll see. But you got to love that he loves those lights. Big crowds, he just elevates his game. So we're a huge fan. He moves up to number 7 in the class into that top 10.
So let's take a swing out west and first look at the California duo, Stanford-bound outfielder James Tronstein from Harvard Westlake at 12th, St. Bosco righty Julian Garcia coming in at 19th.
Yeah, obviously California, you're looking for those prospects, whether it's NorCal, SoCal, you know those guys are going to perform. They have the most big leaguers year in, year out. So James Tronstein, who one of the younger players in the class, will just turn 18 prior to the draft in 2026, but can do it at shortstop. He's the heir apparent there as Bryce Rayner's moving out at Harvard Westlake. In comes James Tronstein, but he can go get in the outfield. He's a 6'6" runner, was mid 105, 106 off the bat with Wood at our West Coast Pro case, and it is absolute electricity from the hands. And he's unassuming. He plays hard at all times. He knows what he's doing. Harvard Westlake just churns out prospects, so you can expect him to get better too. But he's not alone. The entire California class is outstanding. You talked about Julian Garcia, who's in that Trinity League, St. John Bosco, one of the top arms as a sophomore. We're usually looking for guys who elevate themselves within that Trinity League. When you're punching guys, you move that well. He's in the low 90s now. I think the sky is his limit right now, and he can get even better over time.
Then there's Arizona's top player, Arizona State commit Tate Reynolds at 46. Washington right-hander Eli Hurst, he comes in at 47.
Yeah, Tate Reynolds, we're talking about all these QB1 guys. He's another one who has a ton of offers. Pro-style quarterback can go out there and sling it there in Arizona. But the frame, it just oozes potential as an outfielder. There's twitch. He can change planes at the plate. He, again, not scared. He's a guy who covets those Friday night lights, so he goes out there on the diamond and is not afraid and not backing down to anybody. So I think there's definitely hit and power potential there. might stick in center field with that athleticism. And then you talk about Eli Hurst, who's up by me in the Pacific Northwest, been churning out arms out there. It's been the PNW arms race for a few years now, but an outstanding mover. He was a future gamer last year as a super underclassman. I'd expect him to come back this year, put on a show, have all national eyes watching him. He'll be in the low 90s with a really quality changeup and a developing slider.
This is more philosophical, but I don't consider Kentucky to be part of the South, being here in Georgia, but it feels like a more of a Midwest state to me, but I digress. It's widely considered the South, so we're going to turn our attention to Kentucky two-way A.J. Curry, who opened some eyes this spring as the Bluegrass State's #1 and 40th overall. Meanwhile, I mentioned the depth of Florida, and it'll be on display again with catcher Dylan Moss, a Stanford commit of IMG.
Yeah, when you're talking about A.J. Curry, a kid who moved from Southern California to Kentucky, just unloaded on the high school scene there and had everybody buzzing within that Bluegrass State. The left-handed stroke, he hops on the mounds up in the upper 80s with a loose left arm stroke. Not Jack Caglione, but there are those two-way potential because he has that power. I'd expect him to really excite some college recruiters this summer. And then Dylan Moss, who we saw last year, we knew all about the defensive capabilities behind the dish, could really handle a staff. The catch and throw was all there. What does he do this year at IMG? A stacked lineup. He looks the part of a potential run producer. Those quick hands, there's length through the zone. He can spray it to all fields. It was a huge spring from him. We're excited about what his upside has.
Finally, a pair of Midwest right-handers who both happen to be future games alums. Indiana's Aiden Smith from Shelbyville at 48th in the class. Michigan's Ethan Armstrong, he comes in at 51st.
Yeah, you got to love those cold weather arms, Corey. They really elevate themselves late just because they can't get outside as much. But Aiden Smith's one of the top movers down the mound in the class. Been up at the 93, probably more on the way throughout this summer. We'll see him at the MPI, hopefully at the future games later in the summer. But he's outstanding. The slider's real. He has a chance to really elevate himself, as he did in this ranking set, into the upper echelons with regards to right-handed arms. And then you head up to Michigan, and I think he was up to 94 this spring.
Wow.
But it's a three-pitch mix, Ethan Armstrong, and he was outstanding last year again as a super underclassman at the future games. 6'4", 200 pounds. Everything stands out about what he could be as a workhorse arm. And the fact that he's continued to make those progressions, get better, not rest on what his physicality is. I mean, Michigan's been churning out a lot of really good prospects, especially with arms the last few years. I'd expect him to be potentially the next one in that 26 class.
Well, it is a deep, deep class, and they are getting set for a very crucial summer. And we'll have you covered every step of the way here on Coffee and Curveballs. Until next time, I'm Cory McCartney. That's Shooter Hunt, and we'll see you at the Diamond.